What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Investing Bros Show. And in today's video, we're going to talk about two major headlines coming out here over the last couple of hours. One about SUI and its continual rise as the hottest altcoin out there at the moment. The other, some big news coming from the U.S. government when it involves the Silk Road money of Bitcoin. Let's jump on in here and cover both of these stories with in-depth analysis, take a look at the charts, and look at what the price action could be next for SUI and possibly even Bitcoin. But first, before we do any of that, make sure to go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe so you do not miss any of our content whatsoever. With that said, let's dive into the charts here on SUI. Before we even go into the stories, SUI just continues to defy the odds, despite the fact that there was a lot of negativity and reasons for rejection here, closer to 185. We have now rallied here late last night. We touched a former high of this bull market back up to 217. The question, is this going to become a double top with a much further pullback, or is this simply the beginning of a much higher stretch for SUI? For more on that, let's go over here and take a look at an article written by Crypto.news. SUI leads the top gainers as open interest hits all-time high. This is going to be very important. Let's go through the details of the article and explain what is going on. Now, some of you need to know SUI, often dubbed as the Solana Killer, continued rising October 8th amid a record surge in its futures market. This is a coin that people have started to pile up right now and say this could be the next hottest thing, just like Solana was there in late 2023, early 2024. We could see SUI do something extremely similar. At the press time of this article, SUI's market cap stood at $5.4 billion, while its daily trading volume had more than doubled to $2.26 billion. That is a lot of money. $2.26 billion is a whole lot of volume happening within just one day. That is part of the reason why it is the hottest coin at the moment. Let's keep reading on, though. Data from CoinGlass reveals that SUI's open interest soared to an all-time high of $564 million on October 8th, surpassing the previous record of $502 million. This is a dramatic rise from September lows, where the open interest hovered below $140 million, suggesting a substantial influx of speculative capital. Now, I'm going to pause right there. Speculative capital. Everything else in this article is going to be pretty positive, almost acting like everything's just going to move us to the upside. What you need to know about speculative capital and about this open interest, while at the moment it's extremely bullish, the minute this thing turns, it could have some pretty dire circumstances for the price of SUI. That's why it's going to be very important to stick around to the end of the video until we get actually into the charts themselves. Let's keep moving on, though. Futures open interest measures the volume of outstanding contracts. If you guys didn't know what this was, both buys and sell signals that have yet to be executed. A surge in this metric typically signals heightened interest and confidence among traders. Now, something you need to know here, it says a surge in this spikes heightened interest and confidence. It did not say always gives us higher price action. It just says when you see this, it makes a lot of investors have a lot more interest and also feel confident about it. That's very, very important. Further, the SUI network recently surpassed Solana in terms of daily transaction volume. That's not a small thing whatsoever. A key metric for measuring network activity. As of October 8th, SUI recorded 58.37 million daily transactions compared to Solana's 35.41 million, underscoring its growing user base and adoption. Grayscale's launch of the SUI Trust in September has added another layer of momentum to the token's recent rally. The trust allows accredited investors to gain exposure to the SUI token, which has likely contributed to the token price appreciation by expanding its reach to institutional players. Before we jump into the charts on SUI, I want to kind of break down literally what you need to take away from this article. Is SUI pumping like crazy? Absolutely. Are people getting more and more and more bullish on it? Are people looking and lining up at the door to find a good opportunity to get in on SUI? Absolutely. But what you need to understand is when this open interest comes waving in, just piling in, when you see this onslaught now of institutional adoption. That's what happened with that Grayscale trust. Now you're giving exposure potentially to a lot of institutional investors to come inside and invest in the project. You always have to be prepared for a little bit of a hand of manipulation. I'm going to tell you guys what the potential crazy bullish case for SUI could be over the next couple of weeks, but I also want to prepare you for the reality that sometimes this onslaught of new adoption can bring a little bit of a cool off in price. Now let's go over to the charts and let's talk about just what that is. Before I talk about movements potentially to the downside, which I personally believe will happen, although SUI continues just to outperform, I want to give you a scenario in which we maybe have an explosive move here on SUI. As the article talked about, people have talked about this is potentially a Solana killer. I always hate those terms, Solana killer, Bitcoin killer, Ethereum killer, but let's just kind of change it up and say a Solana copycat, meaning it could be the next big wave, just like Solana was late in 2023, early 2024. Could we see SUI kind of take on that mantle and do something very, very similar? Well, I want to start off by just looking at the patterns of what the SUI price actions look like, and I want to compare it to what we see happen over on Solana. You guys can see here from its foundation back in May of 2023, we had a small dip down to 36 cents, rallied up here to 217, had a very strong cool off back down below $1 back to 46 cents, and now we're starting to make a move once again. But look at that movement, a slightly higher high here in price action for SUI. If you go and take a look at Solana's chart, and we're going to go back here back to the time period after bottoming out back in December of 2022, we're going to start and pick up somewhere here around June of 2023, where we had a nice rally here from $14 up above 32, had a good pullback with a slightly higher low, and then we would go on with Solana price action to explode over 1,000% into March of 2024. If we potentially saw a repeat of this happen for SUI, what would that mean in price action? We'll talk about that in a second, but keep an eye here. Why is this so coincidental? Well, in the same breath, when you get back to that high we had in July of 2023 with Solana, you can start to see the volume starts to pile up, the bearish divergences start to pile up. There's lots of reasons to reject right here, and yet the price of Solana would skyrocket, never coming back down to these levels. If we saw a repeat, if we saw a copycat from SUI doing something very similar, this is kind of a hard equation to really say it's identical, but let's just pretend that we saw an identical movement from this low in August 2024 with 1,000% gain to the upside. This would put the price action for SUI north of $5, pushing towards $5.50. Right here, I just have a random level said 543. Don't pay attention to that. We're talking mostly about what would happen if roughly a little over 1,000% gain happened on SUI, just like Solana. We could see the price go all the way up to new highs of $5. And then again, 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents. I'll leave that up to you. That is the bullish scenario if SUI actually does pinpoint and match Solana move for move. That being said, we got to come back down with a little dose of reality. While we are rejecting on a former high here around 217, there are so many factors on the charts right now that are saying that we potentially could be overextended at the moment. When you take a look at the daily chart, we recently, with all this bullish move, have now completed and hit our take profit level. We've also seen an increased amount of volume here. Let me turn off some of these Luxog indicators a second. Increased amount of volume, more volume than we've ever seen in the past on SUI. But a lot of this high volume is actually pinpointing and matching with bearish candles, suggesting that for the first time since September, early September, instead of all the volume being buying pressure, we're actually getting some sellers in this spot here as well. Like I said, we made another surge, another higher high here just yesterday, but in doing so, we've set ourselves up now with double bearish divergence. What I mean by that is while the price action keeps getting higher and higher, our oscillators keep getting lower and lower. You're also going to see on the Luxago oscillator that while the money flow is still up to the upside, we have a massive amount of excessive buyers in the space. Excessive buyers are good in the short term, but the minute that they end up leaving, that's when things can go south for any type of project. When this money flow keels over, things could get bad pretty fast. And when I say bad, I just mean a cool off, a higher low, a part of this bullish trend, but a lower price action absolutely should be coming. You're going to also see here the MACD crossed bearish here a couple of days ago. Looks like a mini fake out with a now bullish cross once again, but it does look like the momentum of the MACD is losing steam. We are once again, the second time in the last couple of weeks, 100% overbought here on SUI. Everything on this daily chart is screaming at us. It's time to go to the downside. But let's take a look going all the way down to the 1 hour chart where we have, after hitting this 217, the first bearish signals. What am I talking about here? Well, officially we have a sell signal on the 1 hour chart coming back in over here yesterday around, that's about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. We had ourselves a lot of reversals, but red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow. This was the first sell signal on the lower time frames, and you're going to start looking for a potential trickling up account. If you move to the 4 hour chart, we're not quite officially under a sell signal yet, but we're very, very close. We've had multiple red reversal dots. We have bearish momentum, and that money flow, while it hasn't turned negative just yet, it is trading sideways. When that goes to the downside, that will trigger not just a 1 hour sell signal, then a 4 hour sell signal, and then it's only a matter of time before that trickles all the way up here to the daily chart where we've already got the reversals. We have the lower momentum. All we need to see is the bubble pop on this money flow, and when that moves to the downside, this will bring the price action back down. But where are we looking at for that price to come down? Well, my main target that I always love to watch is a return to the smart trail of the daily chart when you get a daily sell signal. This is going to give us a category right in here of around 165 to roughly 155. This can continue to move. We're going to continue to monitor this as the time goes on because it is a moving level of support. But my best target for this situation would be a revisit back down to these levels. If that is lost, there is a lot of support down below us, starting here around 140, and then potentially a move all the way down towards $1. But I'll tell you this, while a week ago or so, I thought that this was potentially likely, the chances of us getting a 50% cut to me seems a little slim. I don't think we're going to see a 52% loss. I do think somewhere between a 20 to 30% is a very reasonable spot for a pullback here on SUI. And that's why my two targets I have to the downside are going to be somewhere here in the region of $1.60 and $1.40 for pullbacks here on SUI before the rally continues. That being said, trade responsibly, wait for good investments. Don't just FOMO into these runs. If we break and sustain a candle above $2.18, we could be seeing that repeat scenario of Solana with a price run up over $5. So you're looking either for an entry on confirmation that the bulls are still in control, or you're waiting for a dramatic pullback. Again, 160, 140 are the levels that you should be watching. Before I let you go, though, let's talk about the other big story of the day. The U.S. to sell Silk Road Bitcoin, 69.3 thousand Bitcoin to enter the market. I'm not going to get into the details of the story, but what you need to know is that the Supreme Court has decided not to hear any case about where the Silk Road money should be going, the Silk Road Bitcoin. In a nutshell, what this means is it belongs to the U.S. government, and they can do whatever they want to do with it. Some are going to say that we should sell it and pay off some debt. Others are going to say that we should keep it as a national treasury to help build more wealth over the next little bit. Obviously, Donald Trump is a big supporter of this, but several Democrats in Congress and Senate are support as well. I wanted to preface this article because there's going to be a lot of people talking about this today, and there's going to be some fear-mongering saying that Bitcoin's price is about to crash. But what you need to know is nothing has been decided. Nobody has said we're actually selling this Bitcoin. It's just that at this point, the U.S. government has the right to do so. But if Kamala Harris wants to continue to make people believe she is for the crypto population, she is not going to want Joe Biden or anybody else to sell this Bitcoin. She's going to need them to put their money where their mouth is and say that they are pro-crypto, they believe in it for the future, and this is something that absolutely could benefit the United States. Make sure when you're reading stories about that, when you're reading articles about that story, you're aware nothing definitive has actually been decided. Guys, that's all I have for you in this video. Hopefully it was very informational and helpful to you. Give me feedback in the comments down below. What do you think about the price of SUI? Are you a believer? Is it going to be the next Solana? Let me know in the comments below. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.